Right now, on a special edition of To The Point, what is Pride? We're looking at Pride Month's origins, the significance, and why some say that this year is more important than ever to celebrate.
If we don't learn from the past, we're going to repeat it.
We're sharing authentic stories from our local LGBTQIA+ community about finding community and acceptance. You'll even meet the first known transgender woman to medically transition in China. She now calls Sacramento home.
If someone find out, I probably get a death penalty.
Let's get to the point. Welcome to this special edition of To The Point, where we're taking a closer look at Pride. The month of June, also known as Pride Month, is about equality and increased visibility of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and other members of the LGBTQIA+ community. To better explain why, our race and culture reporter Candace Redd takes a closer look at the origins of Pride Month.
Pride Month is celebrated each year in June to honor the 1969 Stonewall Uprising.
It's really the beginning point of the modern gay and lesbian movement.
The mafia-operated Stonewall Inn was considered one of the most popular gay bars in New York City in 1969. Around that time, being gay was illegal in New York.
LGBTQ individuals have undergone great oppression and invisibility in society.
It was also illegal to serve alcohol to a gay person throughout the state until 1966. Many gay establishments operated without a proper liquor license, making it easy for police to raid gay bars and other places.
Back in the 60s, there were many laws on the books that criminalized the simple act of existing as a person who was LGBT, and that manifested itself as over-policing of the community.
On Saturday, June 28, 1969, New York City police in plain clothes raided the Stonewall Inn. Officers justified the raid with a search warrant, authorizing the police to investigate the illegal sale of alcohol at the bar.
Law enforcement would come into LGBT bars and, just arrest the patrons for being.
Primary sources available at the Library of Congress detail how the turning point came when police tried to put a lesbian in a patrol car. Officers forced the woman into the vehicle. In response, about 400 people outside of the bar tossed objects such as coins and bottles at law enforcement.
It turned into a whole protest movement. All sorts of marginalized groups were fighting for their rights and fighting to be recognized.
It was also illegal to wear fewer than 3 items of, quote, gender inappropriate clothing in New York in 1969. It was informally known as the 3-article rule, or 3-piece law. At Stonewall, police arrested several cross-dressers and at least 2 drag queens.
They realized they needed to do something to resist these kinds of oppression.
Around 4 a.m. the next day, the crowd at Stonewall dispersed. But by the evening, thousands of people showed up at the bar and in surrounding areas to fight for LGBT rights. The protests continued into the next week, with law enforcement violently clashing with protesters.
They were infringing on our rights. They were arresting us. They were beating us.
Over the next several days, LGBT supporters pushed the gay rights movement. On the 1-year anniversary of the Stonewall Uprising, gay rights activists organized the first Christopher Street Liberation March and Gay Pride Week in New York City.
And they started the marches in New York to celebrate that, to celebrate the fact that they stood up for themselves.
About 3,000 to 5,000 people attended the march. Activists in other cities, including Los Angeles and San Francisco, organized Pride celebrations too.
Very quickly, it had a global impact, not only in Europe, in other parts of the non-Western parts of the world.
In the U.S., the last Sunday in June was initially celebrated as Gay Pride Day to recognize LGBT people and history. The day grew over time to a month-long celebration.
Pride is a celebration of all the things that the LGBTQ+ community never had. If we don't learn from the past, we're going to repeat it.
Pride is really about creating a better world for future generations. It's a celebration of how far we've come, but there's still work to be done.
And that was Candace Red reporting. And some say this year is more important than ever to celebrate Pride. This year, the country's state legislatures have introduced a record number of anti-LGBTQ bills, and 75 of the nearly 500 bills have already been turned into law. And California is not immune to discrimination against people in the LGBTQ plus community. Some cities and towns like Sacramento and Woodland have experienced protests at drag events, like a drag story hour for children. The Proud Boys, white supremacists, and religious extremists have shown up. But that is not stopping some drag performers from being who they are.
No hate crime, no hate group, no anything can take away the love that I have for my art form, the love that I have for my community. Nothing will ever take that away from me. So that's what keeps me going.
And that's Rose, performed by Izzy Cutmore from Solano County. While in high school, he came out as a gay person. Eventually, the drag queen, Rose was born. And we use the phrase LGBTQIA+ on the show. The letters are an expansion of the group that had just often been called the gay community. But here's a look at what some of those letters actually mean. You've probably heard of the acronyms LGBT and LGBTQ. Each letter carries a significant meaning and keeps changing, so let's break it down. First of all, it's all about inclusion and taking ownership of one's gender and sexual identity. Until around the 1960s, the word gay was used to describe anyone who did not fit into the default societal idea. The community then started to embrace the gay identity with pride. It has since evolved into more specific words for different identities like lesbian and bisexual and transgender. In recent years, the Q was added to the acronym to represent people who might not identify as LGBT, and it stands for queer and sometimes questioning. The Q also acknowledges a fluidity in gender and sexuality. However, it is not used by all members of the LGBT community, since it was once used as a way to put down people. As the acronym continues to evolve, the plus sign was added to acknowledge the limitless sexual and gender identities used by members of the community. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Bottom line, it's all about inclusion and respect. Coming up on To the Point, suicide, depression, and anxiety are just some of the mental health challenges the LGBTQIA+ community faces. We show you why and where people are finding help. And later in the show, we meet the first known transgender woman to medically transition in China, why she did it, and when even the death penalty was a possibility. But first, we want to introduce you to Manny, who's Native American and identifies as Two-Spirit.
Hello, my name is Manny. I'm Cherokee Apache and also with Chumney. I live in Sacramento. My pronouns are he, him, and they, them, and I identify as Two-Spirit and also part of the LGBTQ plus community. Back in 2010, I believe it was 2010 or 2009, so long ago, that's when I actually came out to my family. I came out to one family member, and that was a really big moment for me as an individual, and then two, as somebody who was learning how to navigate the world. And there became a time where I really had to come inwards. I really had to look inwards and see, what does being Two-Spirit mean to me? Something that's very important to remember is that Two-Spirit, the term Two-Spirit, was created for and also provided to our Native American people of North America through vision.
Welcome back. Stigma, discrimination, and bias cause LGBTQIA+ people high rates of mental health challenges. And that's according to GLAAD, a nonprofit organization focused on LGBTQ advocacy and change. And to put that into numbers, a national survey from the Trevor Project shows 41% of LGBTQ youth considered attempting suicide in the past year. 67% reported experiencing anxiety, while 54% reported depression. There's a growing need for help, and as a therapist and queer femme woman, Natalie Delphin works to protect the mental health of all, especially people in the LGBTQ+ communities.
In comparison to other populations, there still is a lack. I provide anxiety services for anxiety, depression. I work with folks that are struggling with trauma, life transitions.
Natalie says she has a history of trauma and finding help herself was also a challenge. She's of Mexican descent and says while growing up, she saw a lack of representation in the medical health field. And local LGBT community centers also provide services. Free counseling and community support groups are available at the Sacramento LGBT Community Center in Midtown Sacramento. The organization encourages allies to do the following.
We suffered through COVID and political unrest and attacks against LGBTQ people and an increase in hate crimes and racial injustices. In order to be an accomplice and a strong ally in this work, we need people to speak up, to make donations, to volunteer, to be part of changing in the world.
And if you want to donate to the Sacramento LGBT Community Center, we have a link up right now on abc10.com/links. Coming up after the break, meet the first known transgender woman to medically transition in China. She now calls Sacramento home. But before the break, we want to introduce you to Lauren, who helped make Sacramento State more inclusive.
Hi folks, happy Pride Month. My name is Lauren Polito. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm our Outreach and Engagement Manager at the Sacramento Rainbow Chamber of Commerce. My gender identity is transgender male, and I am a proud Sacramentan. I graduated from Sacramento State in 2019. I was the first person in Sacramento State's history to graduate with the LGBTQ as a minor. I helped create that curriculum so future students could also pursue a degree in that LGBTQ studies. It took me a really long time to come out as transgender. I came out in probably 2017 or 2018. But I was a late bloomer, but I had always known that I was a queer person. I just didn't have the language to describe myself. I think it's very important in the states that are able to, that we solidify our voices, we come together, and we continue to do outreach and educate for the change that is needed to happen.
Some consider her a pioneer. Sasha Eastley is the first known transgender woman to medically transition in China. And she says that she enlisted in China's military in hopes of getting surgery and believes she could have even faced the death penalty. Now she's living in Sacramento's Pocket neighborhood. Photojournalist Rachel Kim has her story.
When I was young, I thought I had a girl's soul trapped in a boy's shell. I'm Sasha Eastley. I've been living in Sacramento since 2005. And people told me I'm China's first transgender. I was born in northern part of China, Dalian, 1962. I always pick up my sister's clothing. Since I was 3, I know I'm a girl. When I was high school, I told my parents I wanted to be a girl. 1978, I know about the gender affirmation surgery when I was 16. I met a boy in a hospital in Changsha. He was my first boyfriend. He told me after the medical school and he's gonna do the surgery for me and then marry me.
The Chinese invasion there has supposedly ended, but the Vietnamese appear to be taking no chances.
In 1979, I told my parents that I want to join the army to be a man that was alive because my boyfriend was killed in the war. And that was only hope for me. Nobody to do the surgery for me. In the army hospital, maybe I can find a chance to do the surgery. 1982, and one day I bought a magazine, and I saw an article that wrote by Rong Fang Fu, professor of Beijing Medical College, and he talked about the homosexual. I wrote a letter to him. I said, I'm not gay. I want to change my gender. I told him my situation was very dangerous. I was a boy, but I dressed like a girl to work in the factory. I used the restroom and shower room with girls. If someone find out, I probably get a death penalty from the government. I meet him in Beijing, and the first meet, he already bring a doctor, Da Mei Wang, professor. They took me to Beijing, the third hospital. When I go see my doctor, and the doctor told me, never had one transgender in China. So if I do the surgery, I would be the first one. When my doctor sent the report to the health department, I think maybe 2 or 3 times all rejected because they say we don't have the law to do the surgery. So I have to do 3 things. The first thing, I have to see a mental doctor. And the second one, I have to get my workplace permission. So the third one, I have to have my parents sign the document because that time I was not even 21. One day, my uncle called the CEO. China's health department told him about my situation and that I really need a big change. After 2 days, I received a call from my doctor and she told me good news that approved. I cried. The next day I went to the hospital, different doctors, and tried to scare me after surgery, your life no more than 40 years old. But I said no. Even I can live 1 month, I won't do the surgery. The surgery cost about $100.
Yeah, but she looks at mine. She knows what I am.
She knows what you have.
I met Bruce early 2005 on internet and we married. I moved in Pocket, Sacramento in 2005 from Hong Kong. In China, when I grew up, talking about gender identity was not widely open. I've been through so many discrimination since I was young. That's why I'm afraid to talk about my gender to Bruce too.
Last summer, I guess, June, she showed me a picture of an army uniform, and I thought, well, okay, is that your father or is that your brother? And she had that sheepish look on her face that says, no, that's me. We were together all these years and 17 plus years of marriage. And then of course finding out, yeah, that was somewhat of a minor shock, but I had to reflect on our years together. I was the last to find out. I felt pretty good about that in a way because her friends, the Chinese community, they protected her. And I think I appreciated that, you know?
I admire her courage and admire her determination. It's just everyone accepts her as who she is.
Nobody could live like this, but she did. I don't think anybody would have the same experience, anything close to what she went through.
Since I married this guy, and he changed my life. And we work together, work for the charity, and helping those people who in need. Hi. Would you like one? In half of my life was really tough. When I see people in need, I always think about myself. I always get help from people. Now my life is good, so this is my turn to bring back to helping people in need. I want more people to understand the inner world of the transgender people, our society to show more tolerance and compassion.
That journey wasn't easy, having loved ones left behind, but the dawning of a brand new life was now on Sasha's mind.
And if you're interested in learning more about Sasha, she just wrote a book about her life. We have more information on our website. ABC 10 was a proud sponsor of the 2023 Sacramento Pride March. Several of us walked to the Capitol, and attendees we spoke to said the big takeaway should be for people to understand that human beings are human beings, regardless of ideas, race, or sex. And we handed out a couple hundred of these awesome ABC 10 bandanas because inclusive journalism is at the heartbeat of what we do here at ABC 10. And although Pride Month is nationally recognized in June, the work doesn't end after just 1 month. Because at ABC 10, we stand for you.